Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. Historically a good race for first victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the first time here. We're northeast of Budapest for the race today at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring circuit. 14 corners here, 8 to the right and 6 to the left, on a track where downforce is king and passing is notoriously difficult. Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Why don't we discuss McLaren? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Gasly, Vettel, Tsunoda, Stroll and Kimi Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Russell, Daniel Ricciardo. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Sainz, Norris, the owner driver. They've taken a grid penalty. Robert Schwartzman and Nikita Mazepin. Ocon, Mick Schumacher, Latifi. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Fernando Alonso rounds off the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm here with another lovely race video. We're back at the Hungaro Ring. Last time out, of course, qualifying. If you haven't watched that, then you might want to go back to that. Of course, we had the pre-race, having a good look at the R&D order. Of course, we don't have any helmet glitches or suit glitches for this one, which is certainly going to be nice and helpful. And it's going to be an interesting Grand Prix. It's definitely notoriously difficult to overtake here. 2 DRS zones, suddenly not that long. The shorter one is barely anything. It's really going to be difficult to get an overtake here. The best opportunity at turn 1, but we could end up with quite a stationary race. In terms of the tyre strategy, 2 different options here, a 1-stop or a 2-stop. Of course, the 1-stop, we've got 16 laps on the medium tyre compound, and then 19 on the hards. You can use softs in it, but I definitely think that 1-stop is going to be the better option. You know, it does say drive more conservatively. It's probably the same as that, really. We're probably going to have to push quite a bit on the hard stint, I think. We're going to be able to really push the hards on that one. But the mediums, you know, we're going to have to reserve them. There was quite a lot of tyre wear, I have to say, around this track. There can be a lot. There will be rain later in this one. And that could spice things up for the 2-stoppers. If we do have to have inters, possibly. Depends how long that small section of rain is on the forecast. If we do have to have inters, those maybe on the more aggressive 2-stopper might actually be advantaged. But with that small amount, it looks like it'll just be dampening the track and making it slippery, maybe spicing it up for some driver plus AI incidents. And that is, of course, the strategy. We're going to go with the 1-stop, 16 laps on mediums, 19 laps on the hards for this 35-lap race around the fairly short Hungaro Ring. Now then, let's have a look at the order, because it has been shaken up from quali with a bucket load of grid penalties. Well then, the grid is going to take a little bit of unpicking here, because all those drivers on the softs will be those who got through Q2 on the softs. And there are quite a spread of them here, apart from one driver, Nikita Mazepin. So, your pole position, the pole setter, Sergio Perez, with a Red Bull front row lockout with Max Verstappen P2. Mercedes are P3 and 4 with Bottas leading the duo. Looking good for Verstappen on the grid. We'll have to see if he can stay ahead of Bottas in the race. Hamilton needs to get stuck in there. He can't afford to finish behind Bottas and Verstappen again, because he's going to have a lot to do heading into the final 3 races. Checo Perez, of course, needs to stay there. He needs a lot of points in the last few races to stay competitive. It does look like Charles Leclerc might have been on pole. I'm not sure, but I think it did say he might have been on pole. I'm not entirely sure. But I think he has taken a 5-place grid penalty. He will start P5. But watch out for a Charles fighting against the Mercedes. We know he's got the pace. We've seen he's got the pace, outperforming that Ferrari a little bit, and I think he will continue to today. And that's probably one of the things I'm most excited to see, him fighting with the Mercedes for P3 maybe. Hopefully, we can have a good battle there. Gasly lines up P6 for this one. Guessing he was P9 in quali. Could be wrong. And then Sebastian Vettel will line up P7. Danny Rick, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. It starts with Danny Rick in P13. Norris P15, sandwiching Carlos P14. I think all of them have taken grid penalties, I do believe, for the race. They still have to start on the softs, and they could really struggle. We're right behind them on fresh mediums. We might be able to do something in this one. So those three have taken grid penalties. The McLaren sandwiching the Ferrari of Sainz. Norris has got a lot of work to do because he can't afford to not score again here in Hungary. Of course, you've got Vettel and Gasly, 7th and then 6th with the Frenchman. P6 for AlphaTauri, really nice there. And then behind them, Yuki Tsunoda clearly didn't get through Q2, but he will start P8 in the race. On the mediums, he could really fight for some good points today, along with Aston Martin's Lance Stroll, despite the low focus, hasn't taken any grid penalties. Despite a load of DNFs he's had so far this season because of mechanical failures, he starts P9. The Canadian will be looking for some more points since Bahrain. And then P10 at the moment, Kimi Raikkonen ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi. Neither of these two taking any grid penalties. Neither is George Russell, so an Alfa Romeo will start in the points with another Alfa Romeo behind. Then you've got a Williams. It'd be great to see if one of those two teams could get some points on the board in round number 7. They have taken a massive leap up the order thanks to not having grid penalties, and that could spice up the race. Then, of course, Danny Rick Sainz Norris. We are ahead of our teammate. Robert has taken a two component changes, I think. Yeah, it will be 2, which has dropped him below us, so we start ahead of him in this one. Hopefully both of us can go forward in the race. Certainly not past the McLarens and the Ferraris, but maybe the Williams and the Alfa Romeos. It's not a great race to take engine penalties, and there's a lot of them. Then Nikita Mazepin, up to P18, hasn't taken a penalty himself. Esteban Ocon has, however. He's dropped down to P19. His teammate, Fernando Alonso, P22. I'm guessing both of them may be taken... I think Ocon might have taken a 5 place, and Alonso maybe a 10 place. Not entirely sure between those two. Alonso definitely, I think, would have got through. No. This is quite confusing now, because I think Alonso has taken a 10 place. We don't actually know. We don't get a no. So it's a bit of unpicking what's happened here. But Mazepin starts P18. His teammate Schumacher has taken engine penalties. He will start P20. Latifi P21. But Alpine in P19 and 22 looking like they're not going to be scoring points here today. And that would continue their run of not scoring points. It's going to be a good Grand Prix here, I can tell you that from the order. But there you go, Red Bull at the front. Then both Mercedes. Leclerc's going to have pace. He's going to be fighting through the field. Then you've got from Gasly down to Giovinazzi, cars a little bit higher up than you would expect. And Russell there, of course. It'd be great to see the Alfa Romeos or the Williams fighting for some points. That would be fantastic. And AlphaTauri versus Aston Martin. Watch out for Ricardo Sainz and Norris fighting through the field along with Ocon and Fernando Alonso. Plenty of promotions where you wouldn't expect cars to be. A spread of drivers on the softs and mediums. The top 7 on the softs, then 8th to 12th on the mediums. Then you've got 13th to 15th on the softs, 16th and 17th on the mediums, 18th on the softs, 19th down to 21st on the mediums, and 22nd on the softs. Those on the softs will probably have to go for a 2-stopper. It depends with the rain. Or they'll have to go for a very conservative 1-stop. And if they have to go for a 2-stopper, that's going to bring in the likes of Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll into the equation for some really solid points. This is going to be a fantastic race. And this order is going to be going up and down all over the place, despite a struggle for overtaking. With having slower cars in front of faster cars, because of the grid penalties, we will have overtakes and there will be drama. That's what I'm certainly hoping for. Now that we've looked in the grid in a bit more detail, we're going to get into some lovely Hungary action. But before we do, if you haven't already, guys, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Please, you guys can do that because it means I can get out this content that's good quality and getting it out often and consistently. But we are going to get into the 7th round of My Team Career Mode Season 1 here at Hungary. Well then, an infestation of grid drops should certainly create an exciting race here in Hungary, in Budapest. 5 red lights. They're out, a long hold, but away we go here. Not the best of starts for ourselves. That's Nikita Mazepin coming up alongside us. Russell a bit boxed in. Good start for Danny Rick as we head into the first corner. Sonoda on his teammate. On Vettel, you've got Stroll up there. Giovinazzi P10. I don't know what's happened to Kimi. It's absolute drama here at the start of this one. We're going to go around the outside line of Carlos Sainz, are we? No, we're going to have to back off because you don't want to take too wide through that right-hander. And at the moment, a Mercedes is ahead of a Red Bull, but a Ferrari is ahead of Mercedes. Then we've got Norris moving ahead of Danny Rick. Giovinazzi is in the points at the moment. Probably won't last too long, but he's certainly in the points. Lance Stroll up there, P9. You've got Yuki Tsunoda running very nicely so far in this one. Giovinazzi doesn't have much pace. Sainz is right there, sat on the back of him, and we've been careful not to end up in the back of Sainz, who's been careful not to end up in the back of Giovinazzi. It's going to help us get maybe towards Sainz and get maybe a move on him, but we are going to struggle a bit here. You know, Stroll up in the points for a man who's got low focus could spice things up here. As now, is that Lando alongside me? I messed up the final corner, went a bit too deep into it. I think that's Yuki Tsunoda though. Up in P6, Carlos Sainz on Antonio Giovinazzi into the first corner, and it is Sainz in front of the Italian Alfa Romeo driver, the Italian Jesus, down the order to P11. We're going to have a look round the outside line here, and that could invite Lando Norris. It does a little bit, but he doesn't come along for a spicy little move as he looks to take it through there. That's not where you want to go for the overtake, Lando. I can promise you that. He looks for the outside line through there. We're going to try and take that inside line. A little bit of wheel tapping, and we managed to stay ahead. Ricciardo now sends it down that inside line there. Those two teammates are tussling like mad. So hard to get close enough to another car. Yellow flag, and that is for a Williams. A Williams is round here. Don't know which one. We'll have to see. Think that might be Latifi there, or is it Russell? It would be a shame for Russell with his grid position, but he has dropped down the order a little bit. We're right on the back of Antonio Giovinazzi. DRS will be enabled at the end of this lap. Verstappen goes quickest. We'll have a look at the race start again in a second. Just got to defend from Norris a little bit down this straight. Their softs, though, will start to go off towards the end of this race. The race replay then as normal. We're going to have a look at likes of Raikkonen and Giovinazzi there. Raikkonen got a poor start. I do believe, looking back on it, it was a decent start there actually for Charles Leclerc. And Mercedes jumping up there. Verstappen got into P1. We were trying to go down the inside line into the first corner, and that was Charles Leclerc ahead of a Mercedes. It got spicy 4 wide there, and unlucky for Kimi Raikkonen comes off at the end of that. Giovinazzi got a fantastic start. We were then battling with Danny Rick, trying to go on the outside line of Carlos Sainz there. We went for the move, then it went side by side through this section. We were forced to back off, and Carlos was up to P11. Not too bad of a start for ourselves. Charles Leclerc up to P4 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Gasly leads his teammate Tsunoda. Then you got 2 Aston Martins. Antonio Giovinazzi's going to be sat there in P10, possibly slowing a few drivers up. My teammate Robert Schwartzman dropped down to P19. Esteban Ocon P20, his teammate down in the bottom 2 with Nicholas Latifi. Alpine struggling off the start. We went pretty well though, up into P12. The job for us now is just to fight forwards, try and get a bit further into the points. We have a little look to see if Carlos was going to go a bit offline there. It's all going to be about pushing towards the back of Sainz, because Sainz is going to be slowed up by Giovinazzi. We can't afford to drop the position to the McLarens, as there you go, one of them has a little look at us as we take a very unorthodox line through there, and side by side down the main straight. This is the replay of that, with young Lando Norris is in front, Carlos Sainz side by side with Antonio Giovinazzi. We stay ahead of Norris, but Sainz ahead of Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi just in front of us, nearly tapped the back of him. In fact, I think we might have done. And there you go. That is the replay of the race start. And Verstappen leads Bottas, who's up to P2. Sergio Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton, Gasly, Tsunoda, Vettel, Stroll and Sainz rounds out the top 10 here. Happened to Latifi on lap number 2, approaching the chicane, and he's really slammed on the throttle. He's gone all over those curbs. He lands pretty perfectly to get back going again. It's not a horrific incident, no damage there, maybe a bit of floor damage, but no front wing damage. Be able to get back going. A shame for Latifi. He's really struggled this season. I do feel quite sorry for him. He has struggled. He's been battling Mazepin at times. He's not had a good season so far. He's just really quite struggling at the moment. Not the best there from him. He's just lost it, you know, and that's cost him 6 seconds. He's been pretty lucky, actually, to be planted right back on track with no real damage in terms of like a front wing. You shouldn't have too much damage on the floor there, but a real shame for Nicholas Latifi. That's pretty much him out of the equation if there was any real drama later on in this one, but then you never know. Well, we are at the end of lap number 3 here, and Giovinazzi is sat right there, a bit of a sitting duck. We are dropping back to Carlos Sainz, as now Lando Norris has a little bit of a look on us. This is not what we wanted for the move on Giovinazzi this lap. It's Lando Norris against ourselves. Giovinazzi gets away. The wheel banging through the final corner hasn't helped. Sainz is up into P9. He is in the points, so is Lance Stroll at the moment. Can't see him staying there for the whole race. We get some more DRS here. We're going to catch back up to Giovinazzi, but there's no real way you can go for an overtake here unless you get close through the final sector. That is where we are struggling at the moment in this Grand Prix. An exciting start. Hopefully we can just keep on pushing through this one, as it's Lando again. He is quicker than us, as we nearly get a little bit of a similar thing. You know, he's trying to get past us anywhere, and those two are just going to keep switching, keep doing that while they're stuck behind us. Well, not exactly very, very slow. The problem for us is that we can't clear Giovinazzi at the moment because we're not getting close to him at the right point of the lap. You know, we need to be close to him when we get to this final section, and this is where we're really struggling compared to him. Well, then we are catching up to Giovinazzi here, using the DRS. We caught up to him down the main straight. Now he can go for the move here through this long left-hander, and we get to the outside line. We get the move done, and there we go. That's us up to P11 with points just in front of us, but behind it's Norris on Giovinazzi. The Alfa Romeo's dropping down the order from their starting positions. A bit of a shame in this one, but it was pretty much inevitable.
See some rain. ETA is about 15 minutes.
Only 15 minutes until rain, apparently. Little bit worrying for us here to have that so early. I'm hoping that Jeff is a tad out on that one, because that sounds a little bit too early. I was thinking maybe 20-25 minutes. Lance Stroll is in front here. We've got to keep just going nicely at the moment. Take a lot of run off there. We're going to have to defend from Norris. Giovinazzi still ahead of Danny Rick as we go very deep through here and then play drift along. It's side by side with Norris again. You don't want a collision. He tries to come back through. We have the inside line through the final corner. That's Norris in front. We don't get DRS. Neither does he. And we're going to go side by side down the main straight here. Bit of a close one. And it's the right-hander side by side. I felt a little bit of a tap maybe on me there. We stay ahead. We've got to be careful though, because we don't want to drop too far away from Lance Stroll. Now that he's sort of out of our proximity, we can't afford to drop away from the Aston Martin. He is dropping back from Sainz, who's on the back of Seb Vettel and young Japanese driver Yuki Tsunoda.
We're leading our teammate by 4.8 seconds.
Well, the first of those on the softs are pitting end of lap number 6 onto 7, and they've come into the pits. Clearly a two-stopper for them, and around a track where it's hard to overtake, they're probably not going to gain that many positions back. But Charles Leclerc was so high up the order that he is now P11 ahead of Lando Norris. Danny Rick, I have to say, is struggling. I think they did say he had a problem, and it's not like a serious one, but I don't know what it is, but it's certainly impairing him at the moment. The gap to Stroll fluctuating, but certainly not gaining at this point in time. Sort of stabilising, you know. Sainz isn't catching anymore because he is there. He's sat there, but he's going to have to pit, and those drivers in that order could potentially be fighting for some really good results today, maybe even a podium. Little bit of an out-of-the-box statement there, but trust me, for later on in this one, the likes of Tsunoda, Vettel, they could be fighting for a podium. Don't count them out here. They're on the, well, especially Tsunoda's on the mediums, because you can't really overtake that well here. They get held up in traffic, they are going to struggle. Here we go then. Vettel comes into the pits off his softs, Bottas.
Keep it up.
And there we go. Is that Valtteri who's come out ahead of us? I think it might be. And it's going to be side by side with Lando Norris into the first corner, as it's very messy. It's absolutely very messy. Charles is up next. Sort of don't really fight him too much on fresh mediums there. We're not going to stand much of a chance. Our fight at the moment is trying to catch up to Stroll, and we're not really managing to do that. Probably let Leclerc through a tad easily there, but at times, you know, you want to think, is there a point defending that position? No. You know, let's let him get going and maybe be able to fight for something later on with the Mercedes and Red Bull crews. Of course, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton and Perez, those specific drivers. Bottas coming out in front of Lando. He's getting held up now, though, by Lance Stroll. So those on the two-stopper are pitting their first set of tyres dead, pretty much. Lando Norris is actually on the two-stopper here. He's extending. I don't know if he's going for a wild one-stopper. He might. Bit risky, but he might do it. We're gaining on Giovinazzi, and Hamilton is stuck behind Antonio. That could be costly here. In fact, that could be very costly. He's got ahead now, but he's way behind Leclerc and way behind his teammates and the Red Bulls. One of the Red Bulls might be going for a one-stop here. They might be going for something very much out of the box in this one, but that could actually work if they save their tyres well. Lap 10 here, and Stroll seems to be struggling on his mediums. It is there. Leclerc is really on his back, forcing him to defend. Of course, Leclerc on mediums, fresh mediums. He's just pitted. Norris pitted at the end of last lap. He has filtered out a long way back in the field. Lewis Hamilton will be catching us pretty soon. We're actually catching up to Stroll, who is now being passed by Charles. By us letting Charles through, it's actually going to help us in the battle with Stroll. Lewis Hamilton is going to try and come past us. Am I going to defend him? Yes, you know, we're actually in this situation. I might as well defend him. I didn't want to defend Leclerc because I actually know we're close enough to Stroll now. If we can get in that DRS, which we're already in, he's struggling enough that if we can get past Stroll, he'll defend from Hamilton. And we're sort of prolonging maybe the inevitable. I really do feel like, you know, in this situation, Leclerc's fighting for P4 at the moment. Hamilton's ending up in P5 if Leclerc gets away, which is happening, and Leclerc's pretty much got more pace. The order absolutely jumbled up. Slower cars holding up those who took grid penalties and are, of course, on the two-stopper. We're going to have a spicy top 10 by the end of this one. Giovinazzi is still in it, and his teammate Raikkonen's helping him by defending from a massively long train. It will be a spicy Grand Prix here. It certainly is going to be something potentially to remember. It's not my favourite track, is Hungary. It's not my best. It's not my strongest. But this is a dramatic race. Let's have more grid penalties, please, you know, for the last 3 as we get some DRS. We're getting closer to Lance Stroll. But now, the 7-time world champion, Lewis Hamilton, doesn't, of course, win in real life this season. Dummy across a little bit. No, he's not close enough to go for the move. We've actually really caught up to Lance Stroll. We get another DRS, and he's not managing to catch up to us that much, is Lewis, because we are getting DRS from Lance Stroll. A little mistake here, as we're going to then send it into this corner, side by side, close him off. A little bit slamming there, but that's fine. We want to stay ahead of Hamilton, so that we can then get past Stroll, and then Stroll can then keep Hamilton behind, and that will help us once we've had our pit stop on the hards. It's going to be a very defensive race. Hamilton will probably finish ahead of us, but, you know, we are trying sort of play this one very tactically. We're struggling a little bit this lap in the middle sector. I actually need to use some ERS here. We've got plenty of it. Might as well start deploying it to catch back up to Lance Stroll. It's going to be a long one for us here as we go very deep into there. It's going to be a lot of defending from Lewis Hamilton, and there's going to be a lot of trying to stay as close to Stroll as possible. Leclerc P5 at the moment. He will be on for that if he can just do well. We have a Mercedes leading a race, which is quite surprising. Bottas, I think that is. We've got DRS again. This time Hamilton gets the overlap. Not going to be able to go for the move there, as we just close him off into turn 1, through turn 2, DRS down to turn 3, and I do think it's the Red Bulls who are fighting now with the AlphaTauri. It looks like Bottas is leading, and then the AlphaTauri of Tsunoda causing problems. Yellow flag. I think Hamilton is struggling. Did we sort of have a little bit of a touch with him there? I think we did. Something happened. I think we just tapped our rear, and that has dropped him back a little bit. And I do believe Leclerc is also ahead of Tsunoda, and he's right in that battle now with the Red Bulls. He's on for a podium, but Bottas is sailing away with the championship. Giovinazzi still P9 in this one. And a replay of Max Verstappen on the lead of Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda yet to pit, of course, on the one-stop strategy. Verstappen and Bottas on the two-stop strategy. They have pitted. We'll go over the order in a moment. And now Bottas is going to try and go around the outside of Max Verstappen. It's going to be close on the exit, but the Mercedes man might just get the move done. It's going to be side by side through there too. Fantastic racing as they head up the hill. And Verstappen has the inside line, but loses the position. And there you go. Bottas up to P2 as Verstappen tries to overtake the sister car Tsunoda. Tsunoda going a bit for himself, but I don't really blame him in this situation. He is the leader at the moment on lap number 11. From Valtteri Bottas and then Max Verstappen. Bottas ahead of Verstappen and then Perez. That's crucial for the championship. That really is going to be absolutely crucial for the championship, because if Verstappen loses more on Bottas, then he's not going to really be in the title fight that much when we get to the last 3 races. Sergio Perez needs something better than P4 if he wants to try and catch up. Leclerc up into P5, going along very nicely here. If he can stay there, you know, then that's really solid points for him. Or even get in the battle with the Red Bulls. That's solid points. He's way ahead of his teammate and the McLarens. Even taking a grid penalty, Leclerc's in P5 after the first pit stop. And he's probably going to get Tsunoda. So fantastic racing from Charles. Then you've got Lance Stroll, ourselves, and Sir Lewis Hamilton there. Looking further down the order, Antonio Giovinazzi, Kimi Raikkonen, and then George Russell. The 2 Alfa Romeos currently in the points. Of course, this is a little bit delayed from after our overtake, as we were fighting Hamilton, I think. But Antonio Giovinazzi P9 and Kimi Raikkonen P10. If they can stay there, that's points for Alfa Romeo. That would be fantastic. They're going to have a lot of defending to do later on, but if they can stay there, wonderful scenes it would be. Absolutely wonderful scenes it would be to see Alfa Romeo get some points, and George Russell might be able to get some Williams. It might be Alfa Romeo and Williams P9 and 10 if he can get onto the back of Kimi and go for an overtake. Then you've got the rest of the train. Schumacher and my teammate are defending from Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Sebastian Vettel, Carlos Sainz in that train. All of those guys I do believe are pitted, apart from maybe Esteban Ocon. But of course you've got Schumacher and Schwartzman. They're going to sit there and they're going to be defending from this long train. You can't really overtake round here. So actually those two can defend, meaning that Raikkonen and Giovinazzi are going to be able to get away, and while Schumacher and my teammate defend, you know, it's going to be interesting. It really is going to be interesting while Schumacher and my teammate defend, because that's going to drop Gasly, Ocon, Vettel, Sainz back, and they're going to have a huge problem trying to get back into the points later on in this one, because they've got another pit stop to go. Lando Norris, P18 after the pit stop. Disappointing for him. That's because he was further down the order. Then you've got Nicholas Latifi, P19. Fernando Alonso, P20 for Alpine. Danny Rick, P21, with Mazepin dead last. The McLaren's really far down the order. They, of course, both taking grid penalties. They've got a lot of work to do. So does Fernando Alonso, as a yellow flag was out there. But a really spicy, interesting start to the Grand Prix here. Lovely to see plenty of action. You know, plenty of shaking up of the order. But of course, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo struggling down there with Fernando Alonso, who's also pitted in this one. They are mixed up with Latifi and Mazepin. Well, while I was showing you the rest of the order, there's more battles going on. Verstappen got past Tsunoda, and now this is Perez trying to go around the outside of Tsunoda into turn 3 and dispatches him pretty comfortably there. Tsunoda's not going to be able to fight that one, and here comes Charles Leclerc. Lovely racing. Charles is now going to have the outside line there, but it means he's got the inside line for this long left-hander. That should give him the move on Yuki Tsunoda. Yes, it does. Leclerc ahead, but doesn't get great traction out the corner. It's going to be side-by-side into the chicane, and Tsunoda tries to stay ahead, but they keep it stuck through there. Beautiful racing from the AI, but Leclerc is in front. Fantastic to watch. I'm loving this. Great to see side-by-side, wheel-to-wheel racing here on lap 13. Well, then, not long since we last saw lap number 13 here.
It looks like we're experiencing an ERS software glitch. Okay, touch wood. Seems like the fault has resolved itself.
It hasn't, Jeff. That ERS software thing has happened again.
The pit window, you'll be on the hards.
I'm dropping away from Stroll at a rapid rate here. There is nothing I can do. I'm stuck with the magic on here. I'm stuck with the ERS on, and it is hurting me quite badly. I'm stuck with the ERS on, and the corners now are pretty horrible. I need to get this ERS off, and it's not happening. Well then, it does seem the ERS fault is still going on here. It is hurting us. It's dropping us away from Hamilton. It's turning hot corners into absolute hell here. And it's fixed.
Keep monitoring it our end.
That has cost us quite a chunk here. It's cost us probably about the best part of something like 3 seconds or something. Stroll is actually struggling, going very slowly at the moment. We're coming towards our pit stop here. I'm struggling a little bit to find my rhythm again. CE, control electronics, only at 10%. That is very good news for us at the moment. We might not need to take another one at Spa. Well, that was a bit frustrating, having the ERS glitch. But that's gone now. We are still going. Thank God that the glitch that they were talking about, thank God it wasn't an engine failure. You know, you don't want that. It's a problem. It's cost us. But hopefully Stroll can hold up Hamilton long enough for us to join the party and maybe be able to go for an overtake. We will be pitting pretty soon. I might just pit with Lance Stroll or stay out maybe another lap, go for something a bit different. I mean, the tyre wear around here, it's medium, you know, it's not ridiculous. After 15 laps on these mediums, let's not forget, it is not that long of a lap.
I think you're going to start losing some tyre grip around now.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Jeff. You either were listening to me or just read my mind, or actually thought you'd say something constructive. At the moment, we're catching up to Hamilton and Stroll. Is Stroll going to pit this lap? He might. It would be an interesting one. I think we're scheduled to pit next lap, if I can recall this race strategy. That was quite a while ago in this Grand Prix. I do think Daniel Rick is struggling at the moment. He's a long way behind. I think he might still have that problem. No one pits. We're catching up to those two. Come on, Lance. Come on, Lance. Defend it.
Window open.
This is what we need for ourselves. But Hamilton's having a look. Hamilton goes for the move down the inside line. Side by side. They manage to avoid contact. And Hamilton's up to P6, but a long way off Leclerc. He'll be looking to get past P5. Yuki Tsunoda. Both Alfa Romeos in the points at the moment. Giovinazzi and Raikkonen. It'd be great if that could stay during the race, because a Williams is just behind, and then a Haas, and my teammate holding up the sort of train with faster cars. We could see Alfa Romeo getting some points this weekend, and that would be absolutely lovely to see. Well, then, we are coming in this lap for what will be a fresh set of hards. Yuki Tsunoda's already come in, so have quite a few of the drivers on the one stop. We're going to enter the pits now. Hopefully it will be a smooth one. Inwards, get a fresh set of tyres on, and we'll get out, hopefully, nice and comfortably here. Good stop time would be helpful. There is Lance Stroll into his pit box. We've got Giovinazzi in. Basically, I think everyone else who is on the one stop are in. We're in. Fresh set of hards are on. And we are only just behind Lance Stroll. Really nice. Neat 2.4 second stop. And with all those drivers in front, the likes of Norris, you know, and Ricciardo is 8 seconds behind us. So all that holding up has left us coming out the pits after our one stop in P12. It has clouded over here. The rain is coming. How much of it, I don't exactly know at the moment. Will we need inters? I don't know. It's going to get spicy, and we'll have to wait and see when it comes. And the first droplets, though, Jeff did say a bit earlier, will be coming in the next couple of minutes. The field very spread at the moment. Very dramatic order as it stands. It will be interesting to see if it stays as it is. Lewis Hamilton, though, a long way off the front view. He's dropping out of the title fight here.
Okay, clear.
Yellow flag. And that's an Alfa Romeo. Oh, it's Giovinazzi. He was fighting for points earlier. And Giovinazzi is round. I think he's just lost it. What a shame. Could have been points. Hopefully Raikkonen can still fly the flag for the team. But there could have been points this weekend for the team. From maybe even both drivers. What a shame. Now we just have to await the first droplets. And here they are now. I just say that and they come perfectly in time. How slippery is it going to get out on track, and how long are we going to have rain? It's Lance Stroll in front. We need to stay as close to him as possible without losing the car and having it in the wrong direction. First few droplets here. Will we need inters? That is the question that needs to be answered. Well, Antonio Giovinazzi has been running very nicely. It's on P14 ahead of his teammate, heading into the chicane. Nicely through there. Oh, he's lost the rear. He's round, and oh my days. Nearly takes out Raikkonen and Russell round at the same place. Latifi went round, and there he is. He's gone further off track than Latifi did. That's painful. That's painful. He's dropped from P13, but for P14 down to P21. He's out of the battle for points. A real shame for Giovinazzi when he was in such a great position. And now he's all the way down the order from a spin. The same place Latifi sadly lost it in this one. Well then, your order on lap number 19 out of 35 here. Bottas leads Verstappen, Perez and Charles Leclerc, with Lewis Hamilton quite a way behind in P5. He's going around turn 3. Meanwhile, Leclerc is heading up to that nasty left-hander up the hill. So Hamilton's dropped away. Bottas has a comfy lead here from Verstappen. And quite a bit of a gap to Perez, then Leclerc. But Hamilton dropping away from this race and dropping away from the championship. Then Pierre Gasly has got past his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda down to P7 after his pit stop. But he is ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who's probably slowing down a faster Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Lance Stroll P11, ourselves P12 at the moment. Both of us out of the points. Hopefully we'll get into the points when the rest of the drivers decide to pit later on in this one. Danny Rick currently P13 with Kimi Raikkonen P14. He is just ahead of George Russell, who leads Mick Schumacher, my teammate Robert Schwartzman. Then the two Alpines are struggling in P18 and 19. They're not making progress here. They're struggling. They're stuck in a train. And it's not easy to overtake here at the Hungaro ring. Mazepin P20 and Antonio Giovinazzi P21 after his spin in this one. Real shame from the position he was in. He'd probably be battling for points later in this one. Well, it is certainly coming down a lot heavier in this Grand Prix now you can see it's starting to become a bit slippier, and some sections of the track are certainly becoming a little more treacherous than they previously were. We're still sat on the back of Stroll. It's so hard to overtake here at the Hungaroring. It's creating some interesting dynamics in this one though, and it's going to certainly spice it up. If we do need inters, that will favour those starting on the softs, who are going to have to go for the two-stopper, because those on the one-stopper don't now have the equal amount of pit stops as everyone else, which is going to be costly for them because they've been on slower tyres. I'm just hoping that this rain goes quite quickly. We can afford 3 more laps of rain, and then it will be inters pretty much, I think, because the car is starting to slide a little bit, starting to moan at points of this track. And you can see, although the track doesn't look that wet, it is starting to really quite come down here. Things are going to get spicy in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Well, and it's getting wetter and wetter. Let's see what Jeff thinks. Weather report.
This rain could be with us for a while. Light rain conditions for the foreseeable future.
Dries seem like the fastest tyre at the moment.
Yes, they do, but it is still very, very slippery. I do think that might be Yuki Tsunoda leading that long train quite a bit in front of us, and that's the reason why the likes of Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz aren't getting that far away. It certainly is getting slippery here. Still DRS. When DRS goes, and you can see there's now getting a little bit of water on the track, when DRS goes, it's pretty much going to have to be inters. If this rain doesn't clear, we're going to have a wet finish to the race here. I'm finding it more difficult each lap through the middle sector to stay with Stroll. We're doing all right in the first sector, I feel, but the middle and final sector, we are struggling a bit as now, yeah, the rain's really kicking in. Slicks don't feel like the best tyre. Well, I have to say, the track feels increasingly slippery here. We are into the pits. It's not really a surprise at this stage in the Grand Prix. So is Ricciardo. It's just too wet to stay out on slicks here. It's an absolute ice rink at the moment. For slicks, it's just pretty dangerous to be out on track. And now we see everyone pitting pretty much apart from an Alpine. We are into the pits. We are out. And by doing that, we haven't actually lost track position. We might to Esteban Ocon here, but it shouldn't be too hard to regain the position. No, we don't. Clearly, intermediate conditions as Ocon might try and come through here, but he is on slicks, and very quickly he will end up finding himself dropping back. But it is actually still a little too dry for the inters. But if we continue with these conditions for the foreseeable future, we're going to have to see a lot of drivers pitting on to the slicks as the front runners are in onto off the slicks, sorry, onto the intermediates. Ocon is going to struggle on his hards. We're not the best in the wet round here, I'll tell you that. But it is, surprisingly, intermediates in this one. I wasn't expecting us to be going on to the inters, but we are. And those drivers who have stayed out, and there's a yellow flag. Don't know who that's for. I'm trying to concentrate on me driving here. Yellow flag, it's for a Red Bull going slowly. That could be pivotal. Max Verstappen out of the session. This is one of the most pivotal moments you're going to see for the championship. Verstappen out of the session. I think that's a mechanical. And it's just stopped. Apparently it's not. It's now DRS enabled here. We're tiptoeing round, really struggling.
By the stewards, DRS will be offline.
And now it's been disabled. Verstappen out of the session. There's Lance Stroll. So despite a messy lap, we've caught up to him. This is turning into an absolute shambles of a race here. Absolute shambles as Yuki Tsunoda's down to P10. Dropped off the back of that. We're going to see, hopefully, Max Verstappen's car here as we are going very deep into this section, but he won't be able to go for an overtake. There he is, he's parked his car. A mechanical failure, that could be pivotal for the championship. Bottas, if he wins this, he's going to be running away with the championship. Verstappen and Hamilton are going to be out of it, and Leclerc is now on the podium. What you love to see. Lando Norris's teammate Danny Rick hasn't had that great of a race so far. He started ahead of him but has been struggling. That's him going slowly, weaving a little bit. I don't know what's happening there. Oh, it's a mechanical. What a shame for Danny Rick. He's out the race with a mechanical DNF. Well then, a shame to have lost Danny Rick from the Grand Prix. He was running pretty well behind us, actually catching up to us, and would probably have managed to get an overtake. The nearest man now is Kimi Räikkönen, who sits in P12. We're dropping away from Lance Stroll. Not really a surprise here, as we're just struggling on these intermediate tyres. Shame to see Danny Rick out the race. He's not having the best of seasons, not having the worst. His teammate Lando Norris is certainly having the worst season. He's currently sat in P8, and that is certainly not going to help him, especially when Sainz is in front and Leclerc is set to take another podium. We sat P11. Is it going to be our first non-points finish of the season? This chicane is just becoming an absolute nightmare. We're struggling for grip. We need to see slicks back on the cars, but it's going to need to stop raining probably in the next 2 laps if we want slicks, if you want the track to dry out enough for them, unless no one's going to go onto them, unless you're right at the back of the field. I mean, the gap to the leaders at the moment from this train in front is pretty big. You know, we're looking at Tsunoda, P9. A shame for him, considering where he was before the pit stops in front of that group. He probably would have stayed there had he had a good pit stop, but not to be for Yuki there. Double stacking, of course, causes problems, and that's lost him a very tasty P5. I know you say they need to go the distance, Jeff, but A, my pace isn't strong, and B, when you say the distance, weather report, Jeff.
You're doing well out there. Keep it up. We're looking at about 10 more minutes of rain. 10 minutes. Inters seem like the fastest tyre for now.
You said that about 4 minutes ago, Jeff, that we'd have 10 more minutes of rain. And if it continues with 10 more minutes of rain, we're going to finish this one on intermediate. It's a bit of a shame for us. Pretty good for those who took engine penalties from the top 10, actually. They've been massively helped by rain. We've just got to sort of bring it home here because we're struggling to get anywhere near Lance Stroll, who's in front.
12.1 seconds.
Kimi, of course, P12. Georgie, P13. 3 seconds behind. The order a bit shaken up at the moment. Very interesting still at the front of the order. But Bottas is certainly running away with the championship. And we are dancing around for grip here in Hungary. Certainly isn't the best way I wanted to finish the race. I was hoping for a little bit of rain. That would have spiced things up. Not to have to be on inters for multiple laps and have a track now that is certainly not dry. We shouldn't need wets. However, I don't think we're getting back on the slicks in this one. It looks like we're going to be finishing on some green tyres in this Grand Prix.
The car in front is 3.5 seconds.
Well then, a recap of the order. Valtteri Bottas leads in P1. This is a replay looking on lap 27. Recap of the order after everyone switched on to intermediate tyres. He leads Charles Leclerc, who is now ahead of Verstappen due to Verstappen's mechanical failure. What a shame for Max. That's massive in terms of the championship. Checo Perez, P3 for the Red Bull team. Pretty solid there, going along nicely. He needs a good result. Meanwhile, Hamilton's a whole 8 seconds behind, rounding the final corner. He certainly isn't having a good result today, and certainly isn't having a great season so far. He's looking like he's going to be settling into P3 by the end of it. Pierre Gasly, P5, going pretty nicely at AlphaTauri. He's going all right on lap number 27. And he's getting away from Seb Vettel, who certainly doesn't have the pace here, especially in the wet. He's dropping back, and there's nothing Sainz and Lando can do about it because they can't go for an overtake. So he's dropping back from Pierre, but Sainz and Lando, they can't go for a move. Lando, in the perfect order there. I'm so happy I could say that at this point in the race. That's just kind of random. But great to see Lando there, but the problem is, they can't get past Vettel because you can't get overtakes here. Sadly for Yuki Tsunoda, double stacking at AlphaTauri. He was second of the 2 drivers. They shouldn't have brought him in then because that has cost him so much. He's now 5 seconds behind the train with the likes of Norris, Sainz and Vettel in. So costly. He was P6 pretty much. Would have been a great result. He deserved it, but then double stacking's cost him and he's down to P9. Lance Stroll, the last of the points people points people. Yeah, the points people. That's what he is. He's one of them. He is, of course, P10 at the moment. He'll be looking to stay there. We want to try and catch him, but I think it's just going to be a stationary in P11 for the rest of this one. Kimi Räikkönen, P12, out of the points. Alfa Romeo won't be getting anything here. Having the wet and having to go into the inters has really, I think, dampened the race. You know, he would have been fighting for points, maybe even with George Russell later in this one, but those two are out of the points. That's P12 and 13. Russell's a little bit further ahead of Schumacher, who leads a train with Fernando Alonso, who's jumped my teammate Robert in the pits. Then his teammate Esteban Ocon, who sits down in P17. Then we have Nikita Mazepin on for a fantastic result here, P18. He is getting lapped at the moment with Giovinazzi, P19 after his spin. He's recovered ahead of Nicholas Latifi, who is struggling in this one. That is all 20 of your runners as we continue on to finish what is turning into quite a wet race. Well, it's lap 31 here, and not much to talk about. It seems that the rain has dampened what has been quite an electrifying Hungarian GP. You know, it's meant that everyone has to go
by 0.5 per lap.
for a two-stopper. Everyone's had to go for that, which means that the likes of ourselves, Raikkonen, Russell, Tsunoda either don't get points or don't get a really good position. Like, Tsunoda probably was going to finish ahead of that train in front, but thanks to this, not only has he had to lose not only has he had then to do the same amount of pit stops as them, he's also ended up losing the position to all of that train in the pits because of double stacking. It's frustrating for him, it really is. I do feel for him, and that has cost him what was a very much deserving, really good result. He really deserves that. Not to be again, but I'd certainly keep my eye on him, you know. He could definitely be getting up to a bigger team towards the end of the season with these promising results. He really probably does deserve to. Lance Stroll in front, the gap to him is just fluctuating. We're not getting close enough, and you've got to be really close in these conditions, especially round a track like the Hungaroring. You're going to have to be within probably like 0.3 at the start of the straight. We are times that by like 10 sort of thing, and then add on a bit more, you know. Yeah, we're just not doing that great at the moment here. We are struggling a little bit in these conditions. We're not losing time really to Raikkonen and Russell behind. Of course, Raikkonen way off that train that Russell leads, and I think that is a Haas, maybe Nikita Mazepin, P14. Really great result for him. His teammate certainly isn't having one of those good results this race weekend. We just got to bring it home here. Not much more we can do. A very spread field.
Gap ahead is 3.4 seconds.
A word on Hamilton, P4. In fact, that DNF of Verstappen's really helped him, but certainly not been that great of a race today from him. He is definitely pretty much out of the title fight here. Verstappen nearly is. Hamilton nearly is. Looking at, you know, Bottas's lead after this one.
Laps of fuel remaining.
As long as he doesn't have a disaster, he will be very comfortably in front here. We're just bringing it home, really. There's not much for us to do, apart from hope someone has a mechanical failure and we'll end up in the points. Well, then, we are on lap number 34, out of 35. We're coming to round out this race. I'm not going particularly quickly at this point, just starting to drop away from Lance Stroll. It's going to be P11, our first non-points to the finish, but really, from where we started, and considering our pace this weekend and the struggles we had in quali, I'm pretty happy with this result. Sadly, going to be no points for Alfa Romeo at the moment. Raikkonen P12. Russell still leads that order of cars. They have now been lapped. We're not going to get lapped in this one unless we had a disaster on the final lap. We're just going to bring it comfortably home for P11 as Valtteri Bottas wins the Grand Prix for Mercedes. That is going to be pivotal for this championship with Verstappen out and Hamilton in P4. Bottas is pretty much running away with it. A bad result for Verstappen and Hamilton, and a good result for Bottas in Spa may even seal the championship off before we go to the final two rounds, but hopefully that won't, because it would be nice to go to Mexico at least with a mathematical possibility of two different drivers or more winning the championship. But a great result for Valtteri Bottas today, as we're just slowly, carefully, bringing it home here. No need for an incident on the final lap. Might as well just get the car home and dry, as I say that. Leclerc, P2 in this one. Fantastic work from him. Really great to see. The Ferrari man with another good result, despite the engine penalty, makes the most of his great driving and takes another podium for Ferrari this season ahead of Checo Perez, and that'll put him back ahead of Checo in the championship. Hamilton a disappointing P4 with a DNF for Max Verstappen. We're going to cross the line now for P11.